impending cooperation with Pakistan is a much felt need in Bangladesh. I will say that Pakistan's intelligence support is of vital necessity for us. Resuming direct flights between the two countries would open up a host of opportunities for Pakistan and Bangladesh to make the Bay of Bengal a more safer route of transit. We should also feel equally attached to Pakistan. If they can justify that they are so concerned about Hindus here, then what's wrong if we feel justified to have the same brotherly attachment towards Pakistan? The Indian plan of using the Hindus to build this Bangabhumi nonsense, it has only backfired on them. None of this Indian propaganda has received any attention in the West.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to the TFT Perspective. Viewers, Bangladesh is in the news again. A lot of things and substantial activities are ongoing, especially when it comes to Bangladesh and Pakistan relations. The thaw seems to be melting. On 19th December, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, as well as the interim leader of Bangladesh, Dr. Yunus, met each other in Egypt and discussed the either a revival of SARC, economic cooperation, and a lot of other things as well, especially forgetting what things happened in 1971 and settle the issue once and for all. Today we are joined again by Professor Shahiduzzaman. Thank you so much for joining us, sir.
Most welcome.
So, Professor, the interesting part concerning Bangladesh and Pakistan relations right now is we heard a lot of news circulating on social media regarding either training of Bangladeshi forces by Pakistan military, participating in different exercises, especially maritime exercise, which is going to be held in February 2025. Other than that, there's also of cooperation, of economic cooperation with one another. Uh, Keeping in view that, as well as the upcoming visit by our foreign minister, Mr. Ishaqdar, to Bangladesh, which would be the first visit of a Pakistani foreign minister after 2012. So it's been more than a decade now. So how do you foresee future developments for Bangladesh and Pakistan?
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me in your program also. It's been a real pleasure last time speaking to you. Um, and your questions are extremely important. As you know, Bangladesh, I think, if I may speak as a very senior expert on international relations, Bangladesh gives the highest priority to our upcoming proximity of relations with Pakistan. We realize that this is going to be a turning point in South Asian balance. The Indians have been extremely concerned, and that is an indicator of how useful our two countries are endeavoring to actually implement the projected plans that we foresee for the near future. The most important part of our upcoming build-up of ties is, as you rightly mentioned, the defense cooperation. Right now, Bangladesh is very urgently in need of upgrading its military power, military capability. Over the years, we have had a lot of complications in terms of Hasina's fascist control over the military establishment that had greatly affected the level of confidence and the spirit of patriotism of our military establishment. The impending cooperation with Pakistan is a much felt need in Bangladesh. Never has there been so much urgency for military to military cooperation ever felt in our country so positively. It is important that, given the high level of Pakistan's military preparedness, the very high level of training that Pakistan has always maintained, as there are many retired officers who have very fond memories of their years of training and experience in the Pakistan Army, it has become a very warm subject of discussion. As many of my friends who are in the military establishment, we get together on weekends and we see that there is very optimistic recounting, recollections of years spent in in the 1965 war, the role played by the East Bengal Regiment. Many of our seniors of the from the 32nd to the 47th PMA long courses who recount their memories. Therefore, we see that the sooner the process of training begins, the contact begins, the better it is, because we we wish to see that our proximity of ties are are projected, effectively projected. But at the same time, I think, there's this consciousness that the ties between the military ties that are to be implemented in terms of training should not be treated in any way as a threat by any third country, or should not be misunderstood by our larger neighbor, because this is only a natural phenomena. It would have probably happened between any two civilized countries, either in Europe or in Asia, where two former militaries, which actually were one single military for so many years, over 2 decades, would re-establish their military links and rebuild the quality of training. This is only a very natural phenomena. So when the Indians try to give color to it and try to project it as a threat to themselves, this is only a conspiratorial perception from India in order to keep us separate. Uh, Fortunately, our depth of understanding of each other is very well established, since there are those, as I just mentioned, those senior octogenarian officers who are still actively alive and can recount the quality that can be achieved. So, therefore, I would hope that as we get closer to the days which have been fixed as possible timings to establish the military contact, people are looking forward to it. And among the younger generation, especially, there's a lot of fondness, because over the last 1 month or so, the psychological preparation, the anticipation to cooperate has emerged in a very brotherly manner, with a very brotherly feeling. And I'm sure that eventually, as we establish a process of cooperation, consciousness among Indians, especially, who have no idea about the type of brotherly links that we can build, both on the basis of religion and also on the basis of our past military military cooperation and understanding. India has got to realize that there is a psychological aspect in our relationship, which which is not simply between two countries that are getting closer just for the sake of an alliance. There is something much deeper to it. We never had any type of relationship with India that should lead them to believe that we are delinking India and turning towards Pakistan. They seem to misunderstand the reality. Our relationship with India, in real terms, has always been adversarial. The wire fencing had involved shooting at each other. Indians have been very regular at shooting across the borders. This has been an enemy relationship. And this was well understood Even in today and yesterday, there have been incidents across the border where our border guards had to bring down their heavy arms and take positions to be in readiness to shoot because Indians were carrying out illegal construction on the border, 0 point. First, our border guards warned the Indian BSF, and for about half an hour, there were sensitive moments. But when our Jawans took positions and were serious about taking action, then they retreated. All their construction workers who had brought all their materials quickly removed them, and then the BSF eventually, backed off. So this is a reality which exists. So from that point of view, you can realize that with the type of wire fencing that we have between the two countries, I can even foresee that our Pakistan brother, the border guards from Pakistan, the Rangers, I think also may play a role to reinforce and to take part in terms of advising and training some of our border, the border BGB, the Bangladesh rifles, as we used to call them. I hope that that process would also be established eventually.
Yeah, now coming to the threats being posed by India, I feel that there are three areas where they are trying to, let's say, at least develop a perception of threat to Bangladesh. One is, of course, talk of Banga Bhumi. This is an old, I think, concept that they'll carve a state for the Hindus. Despite we know that there's nothing, let's say, like atrocities happening against the Hindus, they're living very peacefully and they've contributed to Bangladesh also. But they're trying to develop a perception. And now they're also playing the Arakan army card. We know Bangladesh military is strong enough to deter such, ragtag groups. And there were reports that probably Ajit Doval had talked to them to maybe initiate something. So how do you foresee that? And then we come to nuts and bolts of how can Pakistan, Bangladesh cooperate to mitigate this threat?
Actually, you're right. This has all been a very planned set propaganda device. They've been using the private media to project this idea of Bongo Bhumi. But interestingly enough, in the official relationship, in all the official versions, the Indian government has maintained a very cautious distance from the propaganda machinery which exists. The fictitious idea of setting up this Bongo Bhumi or Bangladesh, these have now reduced because the way our this present government has responded has been one clearly of no nonsense postures. Our ties with other countries, especially the Muslim brother countries and even the Western countries, have been firm. And none of this Indian propaganda has received any attention in the West. On the other hand, our planned links with Pakistan has been much well received across the Muslim world. And only the Indians apprehend that they have to take us more seriously now. Over the last 1 month or so, the Indians are gradually settling down to this reality that their threats and some of their methods, propaganda methods, would only backfire. And those were immature, the way the Indians have been trying to use 1971 to create a hedge between our two countries that has now turned out to be a pretty cheap joke. Actually, when you use common sense, one can realize that, 1971 existed over almost 50 years ago. And there is a change of a generation also. In 1971, whatever has happened between two brotherly countries. And now we have gone through an acid test over the last 15 years. We have seen how the Indians have tried, and even the past Awami regime has tried to perpetuate a, a wall between our two countries. But thank God that the younger generation, especially, have responded very positively to contemplate the history of our common religious bond, especially sports, cricket. The younger generation have been great fans of cricket, Pakistan's cricketing skills, and the fact that Pakistani cricketers have been regularly coming to play in the Bangladeshi league have been one of bondage. There has hardly been any, sense of difference. The feeling of almost being brothers of the same country has been so clearly and naturally felt. Pakistan's good cricketing players have mingled with our team and helped training, and all of that has helped to build a psychology of deep sense of attachment to each other. So the Indian plan of using the Hindus to build this Bangabhumi nonsense, it has only backfired on them. It has, number one, it has made the Hindus in this country realize that how the Indian government have used them as propaganda device. Number two, the Indians now understand that as much as they appeal to question of Hindu genocide, Hindu killing, it has only exposed that how deeply communal they are, that if they have to appeal to anything in Bangladesh state, they could have appealed in terms of both Hindus and Muslims being subject to, government brutality or whatever. But when they single-handedly point to the Hindus, it exposes to the rest of the world, as Muslims, we should also feel equally attached to Pakistan. If they can justify that they are so concerned about Hindus here, then what's wrong if we feel justified to have the same brotherly attachment towards Pakistan? Because after all, our sense of security is mutual. So over the last 1 month, the Indian playing this dirty game of Bongo Bhumi, Hindu insecurity, all of these has only added up to rationalize quietly a sense of confidence between our two countries, Pakistan and Bangladesh, a sense of quiet confidence that we are moving on the right track.
Other than that, Professor, you also mentioned that during Sheikh Hasina's time, there was a lot of penetration by RAW in government sectors as well as business sectors inside Bangladesh. You also mentioned that after her removal, there was a crackdown against such, RAW operatives as well. So far, what news is regarding the network of RAW? How effective it is still in Bangladesh, and whether other networks with connection to Indian intelligence have been taken out already from Bangladesh?
Actually, this is a serious issue. It's a serious problem. Even over the last 2 months, 3 months, the problem of RAW operating in Bangladesh continues to pose a serious threat to our national security. Their presence is quite deep. It has built up over the last 15 years, and it wouldn't be easy for us. Over the last 1 or 2 months, the police administration has built up a sense of cooperation and coordination. And many of the police officers, senior officers, in fact, to the rank of additional IG, 3 of the additional IGs have been put on forced retirement only yesterday. You can imagine that even now, some of the senior most officers are sent on retirement, forced retirement, on suspicion of having links with not only the previous regime, but also Indians. It is a difficult situation. It is not easy, especially since this government is overwhelmed by so much of pressure that the Indians know the art of penetrating again and again. The borders are still porous, and the worst aspect of it is the money stolen and the money power they have. It is said that they have been pouring in millions to the raw operatives here. The problem of corruption is high-handedness is still there. Even in the bureaucracy, we have serious problems with some of those were very who were recruited through the Army League's process, and they are defiant. They collectively put pressure on this government that they have to be put on their positions. They play a delaying game, but there is this acute consciousness that our intelligence machinery needs a lot of confidence building. There is a very sharp need for reviving the process, the technical capacity to undo the power of Indian intelligence penetration.
Okay, we'll slightly go off the track and to what is happening to Indian community in the United States of America, because that's a huge point of discussion in Pakistan, especially related to H-1B visas, how the Indian community actually exploited that, and now the magas after them. So is same discussion taking place in Bangladesh? Because when it comes to treatment of Muslims and minorities in India, India says everybody keeps off. But when it comes to their community being treated in United States, they are making a lot of noise. So what's the feeling in Bangladesh about Indian treatment in United States?
Exactly. It's clearly discussed over here with a lot of satire. It only shows the hypocrisy that the Indians practice. It is impossible to actually make them recognize in civilized manner, in a rational manner. They are used as double standard all the time. And when in fact, the Indian community in the United States have been much involved because of their large size and the very fact that some of them have been able to enter the mainstream administration. There is a rampant use of corrupt practices among the Indians, and this has been exposed. And I don't think there is much liking for the selection of Indians in the Trump administration, especially among the far right. There has been reactions within the far right to be critical of the Indians present in the administration, and I think this is also a subject of interest in Bangladesh. Overall, I don't think the visit by the Indian foreign minister to the United States has been successful. They have been hardly talking about it in terms of success. Today, the foreign policy spokesperson was questioned on Jaishankar's return from the United States. And there was very little that he could talk except mention a few of the known persons that normally a foreign minister would meet. But I don't think there has been any clear success in terms of having Mr. Modi be invited, whatever the pleadings have been made for him to be present in the inauguration. We are yet to see much success about it.
Yeah, other than that, Professor, where does the academia of both Bangladesh and Pakistan stand? How can we, ensure that our governments and trust each other, build up a cooperative, I would say, channel amongst each other. How can we utilize Pakistani universities and Bangladeshi universities for people to people and government to government contact?
I think it would emerge in wonderfully well. Past contacts over two almost 1.5 decades back had been full of warmth and excellent public relations work, like developing a sense of great faith on each other. I think that we can revive. The immediate important uh, thing is to resume the direct flights as soon as possible. Yesterday, I had a chance to speak to a very close a retired friend of mine within the military establishment who keeps a very close touch from the BNP side with the government's functionaries, especially the intelligence functionaries. And we agreed on the need to put special focus on resuming the flights as soon as possible, resuming direct flights. We just hope that Indians should not create impediments or flight over the Indian territory. But the resuming direct flights between the two countries would open up a host of opportunities. I can imagine there is so much of interest among the business community here, as well as the younger generation and possible tourists, because we have a huge tourist population and that's starving. And thanks to India, they have tightened their visa procedure so badly that uh, Indians are losing millions in terms of tourism from Bangladesh. As soon as our flights resume, I can foresee that we'll have lots of tourist activity and lots of business connections will emerge. That I think will emerge in terms of faith, because past experience of business between our two countries and our two business communities have been very trustworthy and very positive. Pakistan had also planned, even during the Army League government, textile industries were set up, and a lot of uh, um, uh, production units were held here. Right now, we have just begun the international, the annual fair, trade fair, where Pakistan, I think, this time will participate even more positively. And there is great demand for Pakistani items among women and also among entrepreneurs. There is great attraction for the quality of Pakistani products. So there is very little interest in Indian products. In fact, we've had over the last 1 year a campaign of boycott India.
My God, yeah, yeah.
Indians have responded very angrily, and they've also resorted to boycott Bangladeshi goods. So fine with us. It will all serve both the countries well. I mean, they would not have much complaints. But I'm sure that the resumption of flights is the most urgent priority, that and especially for the universities. Um, the universities have been out of touch. Very soon we will see that our two universities, especially Dhaka University and some of the private universities, which are have global connections, especially three or four of those, which have ranked very well in global terms, will surely link up with lumps in Lahore, which is so highly rated worldwide. The Lahore, I think the University of Management,
Management sciences. Yeah.
Lums, yes.
that is rated very highly by our IBA, Institute of Business Administration in Dhaka University. I'm sure the exchange of students will take place, professionals will take place, and also in the realm of science and technology, our science departments are eager to resume scholarly contact with Pakistanis. Very often, when I go to the university, I get in touch with my science colleagues, former colleagues, and they express their eagerness to, develop their research contacts in Pakistan. So everything is poised, inshallah, by the grace of Allah, quite well. We are sober. We don't have to be very flamboyant. Our expectations are marked by sobriety and genuine need for cooperation. It will emerge well. And those who want to come in the harm's way, especially the previous Army League government who had betrayed the sovereignty of this country, they are going to face trials. The process of trials, on the other hand, is progressing. As you know, Bangladesh has requested India to hand over Sheikh Hasina. India has not reciprocated, and they have decided to take a very cold stand on it. That will also impart a negative influence on the prospect of normalization of relationship with them. But people here are determined that those who have caused so much suffering, the previous government, most of them will be tried in a very serious manner. And the more that process emerges, the more we see how much damage and the looting that took place under the Awami League government, that will awaken our people, and we will be sharing our experiences with our Pakistani brothers in order to improve our security climate. As I can say, maybe at the cost of being repetitive, I will say that Pakistan's intelligence support is of vital necessity for us in all institutions, especially the military institutions, to be able to get the quality of training that Pakistan maintains. It is something that we, right from top to the bottom, from the rank of brigadiers and generals downwards, there is a need to improve the quality of training, the motivation, the confidence, and the need to distance ourselves from Indian designs, Indian perceptions of penetrating into our society. This is absolutely something which we have to share vitally. There may be problems of adjustment at the beginning, like in any other country, for any other people who have been forced into distancing for so many years. There will be a little challenge, but that challenge can be overcome because there is goodwill on both sides. And I can assure you that in Bangladesh, there is a lot of anticipation, there's a lot of expectation among our within our military apparatus to upgrade ourselves. The question of technology sharing is very important. As you know, it has been well spread out quite well that Pakistan is going to help us build a missile production unit in Bangladesh. That will be a great leap forward if it occurs. There is a need also for being totally free from any technical cooperation that the Indians have been imparting on in the Bangladesh military in the name of, engineering faculty or computer science faculty. There have been some who had visited. Those have to be replaced, and most of them have been replaced already. We require more support and cooperation in terms of advanced science military science, especially the in the realm of robotics and other areas, which aeronautical engineering. We have there is a very good possibility that our foreign minister is going to China, and Pakistan's foreign minister is also going to arrive in Dhaka. So hopefully there will be a good deal of activity going on. In terms of the cooperation that we will maintain, China, I think, will also play a very friendly role. And I think there is a realization that there is a strong need felt for us, for Pakistan and Bangladesh, to make the Bay of Bengal a more safer route of transit, uh, to make it a safe outlet. That is where I think we will need this mutually. We will have to cooperate. Pakistan will also have its plans for upgrading a blue water navy and extending its arm to the east from the Arabian Sea to the Bay of Bengal and across to the Indian Ocean. There is ample scope to expand the naval cooperation, and um, and 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 I think that will emerge very meaningfully. And China will perhaps be a very common friend for both of us in terms of defense cooperation.
I think that these are really great ideas and very encouraging. And I think same feelings are existing in Pakistan. That one, of course, we are brothers of the same mother, and then, of course, is you have a common security perception in the region because of Indian hegemony. We are not against, let's say, specific country, but in case they want to browbeat the neighbors, then of course we can always cooperate. And we have examples of this happening all around. There are friendships, alliances, bilateral relations. My last question related to use of social media to bring the youth together, because like I think you started interacting with the Pakistani media, and there's a lot of following of people like you who basically have great ideas, and it's like, as you said, breath of fresh air. That how can we actually expand this interaction, that can we hold like webinars, and then maybe social media groups on let's say different platforms like WhatsApp and Facebook or Twitter, and then go in more organized fashion to share ideas. I know Bangladesh, I have lived there for a year, so we had a very good experience, and we found them to be very, very intelligent, and they are doing very well in information technology. So there's a lot that Bangladesh can also offer to Pakistan. But for that, I think youth has to start communicating. By and large, Bangladeshi educated lot is they understand English like Pakistan, so there's great scope to then communicate. So how do you foresee expanding the social media networks between both countries?
Uh, this is absolutely a very relevant issue. There are so many social media outlets here. They're excellent and eager groups, personalities. I think the first thing that I could do is let you be in touch with some of the other strategic experts in our setup, and also to get you in touch with some of the university professors, as well as our defense experts who would love to communicate. And our television media would certainly love to be in touch with Pakistani social media groups. This is something that needs to be worked out. We've had very good cultural uh, personalities already visiting Dhaka over the last several months. Uh, there, it has been successful, very successful, phenomenal, uh, interest. That would generate a greater contact in terms of cultural exchange. So I'm going to work at it. I don't have much experience in terms of directly being very, very much interested, but I know that there are very interested media personalities who love the idea of getting in touch with you. And now that you have mentioned this to me, I'll be on the lookout, and I'm sure I'll let you be in touch with people who you'll find worthwhile and useful over here.
So, thank you so much, Professor. You gave us so much details when it comes to Bangladesh and Pakistan's relations and potential relations in the future, especially with the looming threat of Hindutva designs by India. Viewers, we discussed regarding the issues of the upcoming visits by the Foreign Minister of Pakistan to Bangladesh, and potentially a visit by Dr. Yunus to Pakistan, which is going to envision a new era we can foresee with the upcoming year. Hope so things prevail and the situation remains critical. But at the end of the day, it's the Pakistan-Bangladesh relations which would be key in deciding the future of the Indian Ocean as well as Bay of Bengal. Thank you so much for joining us. That's it for today, folks. Please do leave a like and subscribe our channel. Bye-bye.